So this week we watched Ken Robinson on New Paradigms of Education. We watched Big Thinkers. Those were my favorite two that we watched. So I'm going to kind of highlight those. But I'm going to tell you everything that we watched. We watched Changing Social Context of Learning, The Profession of Education, Contemporary Social Context of Education, The Changing Roles for the Teacher, Changing Sites of Learning, Education as Designs for Social Futures, and that was it. So, like I said, the first two videos that we watched, Ken Robinson's New Paradigms of Education and Big Thinkers, were my favorite two videos. And what I liked all about Ken Robinson's New Paradigms of Education was that he talked about the epidemic of ADHD and how he said that in the East Side there was a larger number of people diagnosed with ADHD, and I thought that was very interesting. I don't know why that is. I would like to know why, but I really liked what he had to say on it. He talked about aesthetic experience and anesthetic, where aesthetic experience is when your senses are operating at their peak, and anesthetic or when your sensors are shut down and deadened, which is what they're trying to do with ADHD. And I thought that was a very interesting perspective, is numbing your senses so that you're not interested in, what's going on, but you're locked into something that's could be boring. And I like the take that he had that aesthetic experience is what schools should be going for whenever they're actually trying to do the anesthetic approach. I thought it was very interesting because he was suggesting that the school system changed to an aesthetic experience. Another thing that I really liked that he talked about was divergent thinking, and he defined divergent thinking as an essential capacity for creativity, the ability to see lots of possible answers. And then he defined creativity as the process of having ideas that have value. And one of the things that he said about that I really, really liked, or not necessarily liked, I thought was interesting, was that the more educated kids are, the I can't remember the name of the book. I think it was The Breaking Point. Was the name of the book. And what it said, or what the study showed, was that people that were younger in the school system scored higher than the people that were older and were educated, which, I feel like being able to see lots of possible answers and create new ideas and stuff like that should be stuff that is cultivated in school. And so I really, really like that video. And the second was Big Thinkers, and I thought it was really interesting that he predicted a lot of stuff that has happened. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting was he talked about hearing people talk about being time harassed and too much work, and how computers were supposed to solve this problem. And I thought it was really interesting because computers have done the opposite, is you're always plugged in. And what I'm trying to get at is he talked about turbulence. With change, there's turbulence. And I thought this was really interesting because computers did not do that. The turbulence with computers is that, and phones and internet in general, is that you can never get away. You're always plugged in. And so people are being more time harassed. So that's actually some of the turbulence that is going on. And I don't have time to talk about the rest of them very much. But the other ones were more talking about kind of what we talked about last week, which was diversity in the school systems and the changing technology. they're trying to go from a one-size-fits-all approach in education to a more individualized, which I really like because I have an IEP and I was diagnosed with a learning disability. So I think that that is a great way to approach education. And another thing that they talked about in changing social context was metrics, which is how you measure learning. And I'm going to skip a couple till the last one, I believe it is, that we watched, which was education as designs for social futures. And one of the things that the lady speaker talked about was focus on learner performance and production. And she talked about that as not regurgitating information, but being able to create and to produce something from what you learned. And I thought that was a very interesting thing. And I don't know exactly how you would judge it, like the metrics of it, like how you would judge a student's progress that way. But I think that is a much more useful tool than regurgitating information. So overall, this week was very interesting. I liked most of the videos. Some of them were just kind of overviews of what we did last week, but three of them were very, very interesting, which was Education as Designs for Social Futures, Ken Robinson on New Paradigms of Education, and Big Thinkers were really interesting to me.